So what is the proper form for doing a push-up during the PT test in the Army? The reason I'm making this video is because some of you might know this, but I've been wanting to do an actual kind of demonstrational video on how to physically prepare for basic training, especially in the 3 categories of push-ups, sit-ups, and the PT test run that you're going to be participating in when you're at basic training. So before we get started on any of those categories, we got to go over basically the rules, right? So when you're doing a push-up during the PT test, what is the proper form that you're going to have to do for the push-up in order to have the push-up count? Because there is a non-proper form, because what will happen when you're doing push-ups at basic, the drill sergeants will be counting your push-ups. If you do a push-up that is not the proper form, it will not be counted, right? So it will not be counted. So for those of you who might be struggling with push-ups, that might be barely making the minimum, just barely passing, you really need to make sure that every single push-up you do counts, because if you miss some push-ups, that could cause you to fail, and you're just going to fail, right? So it's really important, and I want to get this video out there and across to you guys so you know the proper form, how to perform push-up correctly, and then maybe a tip or two on how to improve a little bit. So the first thing that people get wrong or are mistaken by for the military push-up, and that is your head placement. So where are you looking when you're doing a push-up for basic training? A lot of people think that you should look at the ground because that's a lot of people's natural, I don't know, just place to look. A lot of people just see people doing push-ups like that. They're looking at the ground. But if you do that at basic training, it's not going to count. So you need to make sure you're looking forward, head and eyes straight forward, looking forward, not at the ground, and that is a proper form for your head. So if your head is facing down, you're not going to get that push-up to count. If it's facing forward, that is the correct form for your head placement for the push-up. And actually, just a little story real quick. The first time I took the PT test at basic training, the 111 that you do, I had always done push-ups with my head just looking at the ground, right? I've just always done it that way. I did not know that you're supposed to have your head and eyes looking forward. I did not know that. So the first 6 push-ups of my PT test did not count because I was doing the push-ups. I was just knocking them out, knocking out those 6. And the drill sergeant was like, head forward, head forward, head forward, head forward. And he didn't count any of them. He told me he didn't count any of them. And if in any case you're looking forward, your head and eyes are not forward, and they're just looking down straight at the ground, that push-up is not going to count. So you need to make sure you're doing that and you're practicing that whenever you're practicing for your push-ups. So because it is a little bit different. So the difference really is when your head is facing looking at the ground, you actually think you're going down a little bit farther than you actually are, because a lot of people tend to extend their neck whenever they're doing push-ups, and they think they're getting really close, but they're really not. They're just extending their neck farther when they're doing push-up. The next common mistake, even though it's really not a mistake, is your hand placement. A lot of people think that the military push-up, the Army's way of doing a push-up, is you have to have your hands like in a narrow grip to where they're just barely outside of your shoulder width or inside your shoulder width, right? A lot of people think that's just like the way you do push-ups in the Army, and that is totally not true. The truth of the matter is it doesn't matter where your hands are as far as width goes from your shoulders whenever you're doing the push-ups. The reason this misconception comes across is during the PT in the morning, so the preparation drill in the mornings, when you do push-ups, you're supposed to have your hands closer for the PT in the mornings. But for the PT test, you can have your hands as wide as you possibly can if you want to, but that's really not a great thing to do. But you can have your hands as wide as you want. Wherever feels comfortable for you is where you can put your hands for the PT test. Now, I do want to caution you guys that you need to make sure that your hands are not too far up and not too far down whenever you're doing the push-ups. You want to utilize the most chest muscle as well as utilizing the most shoulders and triceps when you're doing the push-ups in order to get the most push-ups as you possibly can. The next thing for the PT test on the push-ups is your body. Your body needs to be in a rigid straight line. That is exactly the verbiage that they use. You need to be in a rigid straight line when you're doing the push-ups. So I know, like for example, myself, I have a very curved back. My spine is curved a lot more than I guess a normal person. It's just it's my family thing. So everybody in my family has a more than normal curved spine, right? So, but for the most part, just remember to keep as straight of a back as possible. You don't need to be sagging too much. You don't need to be having your butt up in the air. You just need to be in a straight line. And one of the ways that you can see if you're doing this correctly or not is to kind of simply do what I'm doing right now, is just record yourself. Look at your form, so you can actually see what you're doing right, wrong, and how things actually look, because you can't actually look at how you're doing your form unless you record yourself, take some photos or something like that. By far, one of the most major mistakes people make whenever they're doing push-ups for the Army and they're preparing for it, or even on the PT test, is they don't go all the way down and they don't go all the way back up. And these two things will cause your push-up not to count at all. I have people message me and let me know all the time that they're doing like so many push-ups and it's a ridiculous amount. And my first response is make sure you're going all the way down, maybe even farther than you think you should go, and you're going all the way back up. Because if you don't do those two things, your push-up is not going to count. Multiple times I have had push-ups not count because I didn't go all the way down or all the way back up. And it's not because I'm sitting here just doing half push-ups. It's just the fact when you're at basic training and at AIT, they're a lot more strict on your push-ups and even your sit-ups, which I'll talk about in a future video, than you are on yourself. And that's one of the reasons why you should record yourself, so you can see how you're doing your push-ups and basically see how far you're going down and not. So one of the things I recommend to you guys and everybody is when you're preparing for a PT test push-ups, make sure you might be going down a little bit too far than you normally would do, and make sure you're extending all the way out, because if you're doing a push-up all the way down and all the way back up, and then it comes time and you don't have a strict grader and you can kind of gain an inch or so, then things are going to be a lot easier for you because you're doing that. But if you're used to doing half push-ups and you have to all of a sudden go all the way down or go all the way back up, that's going to fatigue you a lot and you're not going to do very well on the PT test. The final little piece to this whole push-ups thing is your foot placement. Your feet can be no farther than a foot apart. So sometimes you'll see people doing push-ups and their feet are spread really wide whenever they're doing push-ups. It's actually a little bit easier to do that. Reason being is the wider you spread your feet, the shorter you're making your body, and you're kind of making the pivot point for where you're doing push-ups just a little bit easier. So the wider your feet, the easier it is to do push-ups, which is why you can't have your feet farther than a foot apart. So about that far apart is kind of what you're going to be looking at. But for the most part, I just keep my feet together. For most of you, you might keep your feet together, but there are some people out there who just do normal push-ups and their feet are pretty far apart. So you cannot do that. Those push-ups will not count. You will be disqualified during the PT test if you do that incorrectly. So I just mentioned it. You can get disqualified during the PT test for the push-ups, and now I'm going to clarify that a little bit. During the PT test, you have 10 attempts, so 10 push-ups to do a correct push-up. If you don't do 10 correct push-ups, or your first 10 push-ups are not correct, they're going to tell you to stop. They're going to tell you what you did wrong, and then you're going to go back to the back of the line and start again. So if you do 10 push-ups incorrectly, so in my example, when I did 6 push-ups with my head facing down, if I had done 10 of them like that, then none of them would have counted, and he would have just told me to stop, and he would have told me, make sure you're looking forward instead of looking down, and I would have gone back to the end of the line and started again. Reason for that is so you don't fatigue yourself and do a crap ton of push-ups. And you never know, you might have a drill sergeant or somebody who's actually nice, and they see you doing a terrible form for some people, and they just tell you to stop right away and be like, and they just kind of give you a little coaching session. So that's kind of cool. And now, how is the PT test actually going to go? Well, the drill sergeants, whoever's instructing the PT test, they're going to say 3 things: get ready, get set, and go. whenever they say get ready, you're going to go from wherever position you're at, you're stretching, doing whatever, to having your hands and your knees on the ground. So you're basically sitting there on the ground in a potential push-up position where your hands and knees are on the ground, but you're not actually in the front leaning rest position, right? Once the instructor says get set, that is whenever you transition from that phase, from the hands and knees on the ground, to the actual front leaning rest position, which is the top position of the push-up position, where you're holding yourself up in like a plank. So they'll say get set, and about a second or so later they will say go. And as soon as they say go, you just start pumping them out as fast as you possibly can to do push-ups. And a little tip for you guys, I'm gonna give you guys 2 tips right here. A lot of people, it confuses the crap out of me, but a lot of people try to pace themselves for push-ups, right? One of the things that can help you out drastically on push-ups is, it sounds so weird, but people don't do it, and it's to do push-ups as fast as you can. And one of the ways you can do that is when you're pushing up, on your way down, do kind of like a fall, right? So you're not necessarily falling, but you don't want to apply resistance like some people do. You're not trying to do fast up, slow down. You're trying to do these push-ups as fast as you can. So when you're doing them, push up as fast as you can, obviously, and then go down as fast as you can. A lot of people I see, like beginners push-ups and whatnot, they don't go down as fast as they can, and that is literally half of the game. So the faster your body can go down after that push-up, the faster you can go back up. So that's really, really key, and that kind of just helps you not get fatigued as fast. So I mean, you got to think about it this way, and this is a very extreme example. If you did 10 push-ups as fast as you can, it's not going to be that bad. But if you did 10 push-ups and it took you 3 seconds to do each push-up, those 10 push-ups are going to be a lot harder. So now if you add that up over a 2-minute interval of doing push-ups, the faster you're going down, the faster you're performing each push-up, that's going to help a lot. So it sounds really silly, but a lot of people don't think about it. The next and final tip I have for you guys is your hand and knee placement, ensuring that you're in the same push-up position every time you do push-ups. This is really key, and I think it's helped me out a lot in my push-ups in order for me to do as much as I possibly can. So when you're doing stuff like the army, the run, the sit-ups, and the push-ups, a lot of it is kind of muscle memory, because you're just doing as much as you possibly can. So the more your muscle remembers the specific movement that you're doing, that you're performing, the better you're gonna be, right? So think of it as like a baseball swing. You get the exact same baseball swing and over and over and over and over and over again, right? In basketball, you're shooting a basketball. Your muscles remember the movements. So one of the ways that you can use that knowledge to help you in push-ups is to making sure your hands are going to be the same distance apart every time, and they're also going to be the same distance up and down. And one of the ways that I do that is whenever I'm in the kneeling position, I will lean backwards, kind of, my hands will kind of just rest there a little bit, and when I come up, whenever I come back up, they'll be in the roughly exact same position every single time. And I'll start the push-up position on the PT test like this every single time. And then I guess a third little tip for you guys, it is a little bit easier for me. Once you kind of max out for that width of your arms for the push-ups, you can then slowly kind of move your arms out a little bit, just adjusting the muscle groups that you're hitting whenever you're doing the push-ups. So don't keep the same hand width for the entirety of the push-ups, the push-up section of the PT test. Move your hands around a little bit once you start getting fatigued, and that is literally going to be changing over, using different muscles that you weren't using, so those muscles aren't going to be fatigued as much, and that'll help you get out a couple extra push-ups. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It is just the bare minimum basics. It also went on way longer than I thought it was going to go, but I hope it helped you guys out a little bit. This is just the baseline knowledge on the form and a couple little tips on how you can perform the push-ups during the PT test in order for you to get the highest score possible, so you don't get any points taken away. And at the end here in this video, I give you guys a few tips on maybe adding in a couple of extra push-ups at the end of the PT test. If this video was helpful for you guys in any way, shape, or form, hitting that like button would be awesome. If you want to stick around for some more of my videos and all that stuff, I'm making a few more fitness videos here coming up soon. hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions whatsoever, fitness related, Army related, life related, leave your comments down below. Send me a direct message on YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram or Snapchat. Send me a message on there, and I will see you guys later.